All right, so here's kind of a fun video that I made. People have been asking me, how do I like the Evo versus the R8? So on the left is my 21 Huracan EVO, which I just picked up about 4 months ago. Added aftermarket wheels, wing, and steering wheel. Have not touched the exhaust. On the right is my 22 R8 that I ordered new. I added wheels, a wing, Quicksilver exhaust, which is awesome, and steering wheel. Love them both, and I thought I'd do a quick comparison here. So what I did is I kind of have a couple some categories and just kind of compare them. So let's start supercar exterior. I gave the R8 a 7. It looks obviously it's a striking looking car, mid-engine, low to the ground, wide, and but there's some angles that it could look a little awkward. Um, Overall, of course, I personally love the car and how it looks, but I gave it a 7, especially relative to maybe some other kind of supercars, exotics that are out there. And in a way, Audi, they I felt like they held back a bit on the car, whereas some other supercars they just went all out and made the car look as good as they possibly could. And part of that is because they wanted the Evo to be more visually exciting, to stand out more edgy, more in your face, more wow. And I mean, just for me personally, looking at the two cars side by side, the Huracan just stands out. Looks way more aggressive, way more exotic, way more supercar. And then if you just kind of gauge people as you're driving around or spending time with the cars, maybe it's the Lamborghini badge, but I think it's just the overall styling, the exterior of the Huracan just gets a ton of attention. Whereas the R8 would be kind of a nod from like a car guy, and people like both cars overall, so positive experience. But have to give the Huracan a 9. The interior, um, I thought the Audi interior is really good overall, but it's not particularly exciting. And I know people say, "Oh, it's a luxury supercar," and that's fine. It's got a great interior. It's super comfortable. I have plenty of videos on it, but it's not particularly exciting, and you could almost argue a little bit dull. So in a way, I'm kind of giving being favorable. The Huracan I gave a 7, and I really like the interior. People say it feels plasticky or cheap. I don't know. I have an upgraded interior. I have carbon seats, and I don't feel like there's any cheapness at all. I think where it could come from, there's like less sound deadening and just maybe thinner materials in the Huracan than the R8. But that's kind of, that comes with, you also get the benefit of a kind of more visceral, just experience overall in the car. So I wouldn't say I'm blown away by the Huracan interior, but, I'd put them pretty equal in terms of quality materials and just overall. I would give the tip towards the Huracan in terms of more exciting for sure. When you get in, it's more purposeful. And I guess I easily could have given that an 8 or a 9 based on the excitement of the interior. And the Audi, I'd probably knock it down a couple, maybe to like a 4 or 5, honestly, if it was around excitement. Exhaust sound, this is where I probably am going to be a bit different than most people. I gave the R8 a 10, and I had the Quicksilver exhaust on it, some videos on the channel here. And it, like, the R8 with the Quicksilver, just, the top end, it just shrieks and gets so loud. And it's not just about volume loud, but just the high pitched sound that it makes is just so unique. And the throttle blips were like violent. I mean, they were so aggressive, and it just made the car so much fun. The Huracan, mine is stock, and it sounds spectacular for a stock car, no doubt. But I gave it an 8 because it has a lot of pops, cracks, way more than my R8 did for sure, especially like under 3,000 RPM or just driving around town. But once you get to me, the reason I love naturally aspirated cars is once you get over 7,000 to 8,000 RPM, the R8 with the Quicksilver would just completely come alive and move to like a next level of sound as it just moves up through the rev range. And the Huracan, it does, but it just doesn't have quite that edgy excitement that the Quicksilver did on the R8. So again, it's not about volume, just going by the loudest exhaust, but just kind of different there. And again, they both sound great, but I kind of give the edge to the R8 with the Quicksilver. Handling, The R8 is flat. It handles really well. But the thing that always bothered me about the R8 was it has an Audi feel to it. And what I mean by that, it's insulated. It's not quite aggressive. And even the R8 GT, I was a little disappointed with it. It was more cosmetic. They didn't make like a GT3 or an STO or a Performante kind of version of the R8 ever. And they never really evolved it. Whereas with the Huracan, if you drove an Evo versus a pre-Evo, there's a difference. They took the Huracan Performante. They did, numb it down a little bit in the Evo, but it's still quite a big step up from a standard Huracan, in my opinion, for backstreet drives, etc. That leads into steering feel. The R8 was pretty numb. I mean, very precise, but it's just, if you're looking for that edgy excitement, not quite a track car, but between a street and a track car, I was just always looking for more of the R8. It's a pretty soft car from that perspective. The Evo is quite a bit better in just chassis feel, steering feel than the R8 Performance. But I could still feel a little artificial feel in the Evo. So I wouldn't give it a 9 or a 10, but definitely a 7 or an 8. Value, especially if you look at the R8's really strong here relative to V10 supercars mid-engine. You can get like my car, this one here with 7,000 miles on it for 150K. Look, it's still a lot of money for any car, but relative in the supercar world, that's actually pretty good value. And depreciation will be very minimal at this point, and the reliability is really strong. The Evo, I gave it a 4. Maybe it's a little strict, but like you're in the mid 200s, so it's like 100K more for an Evo versus an R8. And they're similar in a lot of ways. They're different in some ways, but I wouldn't consider the Evo a value for what you spend, even though I love the car. Sense of occasion, look, like they're not my daily drivers. So when I go on the R8, and it was really the exhaust and the color combo that made it for me, I was always happy to get in the R8 and take it for a spin. I was always looking for excuses to go for a drive. The Huracan, the Evo, I give it a 10 for sure. Like you get in the car, the interior, the cockpit, flipping the switch, they just did an amazing job. The cartoon looking graphics. I mean, it's like anything the angular interior, the fighter cockpit, anything they could do to make it exciting, they did it. And in my opinion, it's very tasteful as well. So certainly a 10. Comfort. This one will be people probably go, what are you talking about? 5 for an R8? Yes, it is insulated. It is comfortable from that perspective. But my problem was the seats are set high, and in a six, as someone who's 6'2", 200 pounds, I could never quite get a comfortable driving position. It was always compromised. And yes, I did the tricks to get the seat to go all the way back, etc. But they put some comfort seats in the R8, and I could never quite get 100% comfortable. Whereas ironically in the Evo with the sport seats, the Evo has more leg room. For me, slightly more headroom, and I'm just able to get way more comfortable. Now, if I had the standard seats in the Evo, then this probably would be like a 4 or 5. But the sport seats give an extra 2 inches of headroom, more leg room, and I could easily go on longer drives with the Evo than the R8. And again, from this perspective, it's more about just the ability to fit for a taller guy. Community with the R8's really small. I kind of miss like the M cars I had, and Porsche in particular. Great community, a lot of local drives, etc. The Lambo, there's a few more around, ironically, of people who get together, which is kind of fun. So that's just more personal, but it is a little bit of a factor. Okay, so overall ownership, the R8, I give it an 8. I was really pleased overall with the time I had the car. It was a good value, and I really enjoyed it. But it did always make me wonder, a little bit more in the driver engagement, a little less like better seating position. And I mean, 8 is certainly not bad, but it left me looking for more, obviously, which is why I bought an Evo. And for right now, I give the Evo a 10. It's, has exotic looks, supercar feel. Now that I kind of have it tweaked how I want with the wheels and the wing and a few other small things, like it's stunning to look at. It's stunning to drive. It has driver engagement for a street car. I wouldn't mind maybe a little more, kind of road feel and engagement. It's probably what a Performante brings, but for right now, super happy with the decision. And, obviously zero issues with it. Great local community. The dealer network's really good. And just the sense of occasion, the ability to take the car out overall, and also just how drivable it is. I mean, you can kick it down into strata mode. It can get quiet, comfortable to drive. That's not personally what I'm looking for, but it does give you that in addition to Corsa mode, which just takes everything to another level versus the R8 with just the chassis, the steering feel. In Corsa mode, the car just feels gripped to the ground. Whereas the R8 just didn't quite have that mode. It was always this middle ground of comfort, not quite having the edginess, etc. So that's why I give the Evo the edge, and that's why I gave it a 10. So I hope you enjoyed the comparison. Check out more videos to come where I go more